It is Wednesday, January 21st, and with me, as always, is my friend Pete, and also a special guest today, and a little bit of a different special guest. Before we do that, though, Pete, why don't you say hello and tell us
As
how you.
always, thanks for being here. I got some immediate feedback on the pod that just released this morning with me and my lovely wife, Lynn. And my brother called and said, that guy, Glenn, man, I don't even know his last name, but he feels like he's a member of the family.
Oh,
So the legend of Glenn is growing. Anyway, good to be here.
well, we are on a legendary run, I think. Adam Rohde's session was great, and then, of course, the much anticipated Lynn episode just dropped, and I thought that was such a lovely episode. But we're going to throw a little bit of a curveball today, and
A lot
bring
of
in
pressure on today's guest.
somebody from my side of the fence. I'm happy to introduce my brother Mitch. Mitch, why don't you say hello and introduce yourself?
Hello, everybody. My name is Mitch Barnett. I'm Glenn's brother, about 5.5 years younger. So I got to learn a lot of life lessons through him with that age delta.
Yes, from my mistakes more often than not.
Yeah.
And yeah, Mitch is obviously we have a great relationship, and he was an early fan of the pod and has been along for the whole ride, and is a fan of Pete, who's never gotten to meet you before. So I thought it would be cool for to kind of represent that part of the audience, maybe the part that doesn't know you as well, or not part of the friends and family, but still a fan of the pod, a fan of you, and maybe with some questions about the early days or what you're thinking about now. So that's the idea for this episode. How's
Not
that
really,
sound?
they're a fan of you also, Glenn, for all the great work.
Yes.
So don't
I'm,
leave yourself out.
I'm trying to ingratiate myself to all the different listeners and all the different fans. So yeah, Mitch, do you wanna get us started? I know you wanted to kind of take a peek a
Yeah.
bit.
Yeah. When Glenn suggested me coming on as a guest, I knew I had to do my homework here, especially following perhaps the guest of the series. I just listened to that on my walk this morning with your wife. So another great episode. So, Pete, we're going to do a little Back to the Future. We're going to set the DeLorean to 1985. That happened to be the summer that the movie came out. And you are graduating high school, heading off to college. Um, and according to the archives at Wesleyan, you were from the greater Chicago area. Is that correct?
That is correct. The fine village of Lake Bluff, Illinois.
Okay. And I guess kind of my first question, are you already a sports fan? And what teams are you rooting for at that point? Because it is an interesting time in Chicago.
Well, for sure, we got the Bulls era of dominance was just in its early stages, very early. Like
Right.
I think Jordan might have been a rookie or in his second year or something. Um, but my formative sports fandom was watching the Cubs. Back when I was in high school, and I can't remember when they actually put lights in Wrigley Field, but certainly when I was in middle school and high school, they were all day games. So I would come home from school, and you'd turn on the Cubbies and listen to Lou Boudreau and Harry Carey, Jack Brickhouse, some legendary announcers in Cubs history. Um, and so watch baseball. Had to be a Bears fan, of course. Uh, I remember distinctly this was freshman year in college when it was Monday Night Football and the Bears lost to, my gosh, who'd they lose to? The Dolphins, I think, on Monday Night Football for the first loss of the season. That was a traumatic situation, but they obviously dominated the Super Bowl that year. But early on, I was a Cubs fan. My dad used to get I don't know 6 or 8 games a year to the Blackhawks. We went to a lot of Blackhawks, a lot, but a handful of Blackhawks game every year. Uh, so pretty broad TV watching. The other thing that people will find astounding is that the NBA didn't have games on live like the local TV station might, but they would play games Friday night at 10:30, like tape delay, the Celtics against, the Lakers or something, and that's how you watch NBA basketball. That's how I watch NBA basketball, which is
Huh.
kinda nuts for cable TV, really.
Wow.
All right. So, later that fall, you go to Wesleyan. They have you listed as 6'5", 205 pounds. Be honest, could you dunk?
I could dunk. I could dunk, quite handily. I mean, I couldn't take it down the lane and throw it on somebody's head, but I probably had, I can't remember, 5 or 8 dunks in my career in college. So
Okay.
kinda, open. I need to be open, but I could throw it down forwards, backwards, throw it off the backboard and dunk it. I couldn't do the, jump up, bounce the ball off the backboard and flush it. That takes a little more air time. So, and I was a two-footed jumper. I couldn't dunk off of 1 foot, but off of 2 feet, I could throw it down pretty good.
Um, Another thing I noticed is the first Air Jordans came out in the spring of '85, and that's also the same colors as Wesleyan. So just curious, were you all sporting those shoes, or
Yeah.
what was
No,
the deal?
our coach Kenny had a thing with Converse, so we wore Converse for 4 years. Whatever the Converse, I don't even, they were nice leather basketball sneakers, but nothing like, today.
Nice.
A fun fact for everybody, you finished 16th all-time leading scorer with the school with 1,091 points. It sounds like you had a really good team in '87, '88. They still hold the highest scoring average at
Yeah.
86.2 points.
Yep. We were
Uh,
the, running rebels of the NESCAC that year. That was a really, really good team.
a couple other team records that still exist: 125 points as a team against Emerson.
Against Emerson, I remember that one. It was at Emerson.
Hmm.
Our Chris Alexander had a nice dunk in that game, as I recall. I think it was his first dunk. Uh, it's funny how you remember these things. But I probably said this on the podcast. Lynn will say, "Remember when Lily was born and such and such?" I'm like, "No idea." But do you remember when you played Emerson in 1988? And I can tell you, multiple highlights.
That's funny. And 33 free throws made as a team against Trinity. Do you remember that game?
Yeah, that was a Trinity was like they're still like this today. They were like the lame beer Pistons, just a bunch of thugs who we were a very physical game. I shouldn't call them thugs, but they played a very physical game of basketball, and I do remember that game. I don't remember if we won or lost. We lost a lot of games to Trinity by like a point or 3 points. I think the other thing that happened is the most assists in a game might have been against Coast Guard Academy also that year. Brock Ganellis. Is that
He
you
w-
seeing that?
I have two teammates in the records list. Brock, he's kind of like John Stockton back then, and then
Pretty much.
Leroy Darby, who was also in the top
Yeah.
15.
Yeah. Yeah, he had I assume he had more points than I did. I can't remember who did what, but he and I both scored a lot of buckets.
Yeah, you were really close. I think he's slightly higher than you.
Yeah,
Um,
would have been my guess.
Now,
Good player.
is it true you changed your number from 11 to 4 your sophomore year and then back to 11? Is there a story there?
It's funny. People were. Sometimes I can't remember what number I wore. I didn't really care about numbers. I don't know why I went from 11 to 4 back to 11. Uh, maybe somebody with more seniority wanted the 11 or something. I don't know.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's like you'll put any number on, doesn't matter.
Yeah, it didn't really matter to me. I was not a didn't. I wasn't a number guy.
Another fun fact, the NCAA added the 3-point line in your '86, '87 season. I
That
guess,
was
like, how did the game change, or, like, how do you get that memo? There's not Twitter back then, does a fax come in and say, hey, we're painting this line, or what?
well. A couple things happened. One is I want to say 2 years or a year before I got to Wesleyan, they instituted a shot clock. There wasn't even a shot clock. Well, there was when I showed up, and it was a 45-second shot clock. Which seems like an awfully long time by today's standards. And the 3-point line came in. I was obviously a 6'5" guy who could jump a little bit, but I was not a. I didn't spend a lot of time in the lane, but I could shoot it. And so the 3-point shot was a significant opportunity for me. You know, a tall guy who can make, 20-foot shots is um, less valuable when it's only worth 2 points. But when it's worth three, that's pretty good. And credit to it, we had a very old school coach, and credit to him is that by the second year of the 3-point line, he was like, let's fire him up by those standards. I mean, today teams are shooting 33s a game or more, um, and he was pretty progressive for that era, which was nice.
Cool.
Which is part of the
Yeah.
reason we scored a lot of points. We had a strong inside game with Leroy and Robert James. Rest to his soul, Rob James died a couple of years ago, sadly. Um, so we could work it inside, outside, and had a lot of scoring threats. So it was a fun team.
Nice.
Another fun fact, it said you slimmed down to 190 in your senior year. Were you finally able to kick that freshman 15? Were you planning to go pro? Is that
Yeah,
record
there was
accurate?
no pro in my future, but I think I always sort of started the season around in the low 200s, and by the end of the season you lose weight unless you're lifting weights. You're gonna shed weight, and I didn't lift weights. It was also an error. You didn't really do any weight training.
Mm.
And kind of bringing that full circle to today's game, with name, image, and likeness, NIL for short, the transfer portal, just kind of the constant flux that both the basketball and football sports are seeing. Do you have any opinion on that, or things that you might do to make it a little bit less chaotic?
First of all, I think it's great that players are getting paid, and the uh, hypocrisy at the Division I level to suggest that these at the big time level,
Yeah.
uh, that these guys are anything other than paid athletes to generate revenue. So the fact that they're getting paid, power to the people, as far as I'm concerned, they are the product. Um, and I, I think it would be wise to sign these guys to contracts so they don't have an entirely new team every year. I don't know why you wouldn't say, "Hey, listen, we want you to come, but you're you got to guarantee us 2 years, and we're going to pay you over that time. If you choose to go professional for that time, that's okay. You're just not going to get, you're not going to get the second year's payout." Um, and I've been saying for several years now that Division III is the new Division I, in the sense that the quality of play is. I mean, for those who don't think much of Division III sports, go to a good Division III hoops game, and you'll be pretty surprised at the talent that's in front of you. Now, there's a reason these guys are playing D3 and not at North Carolina. They're usually missing a tool or two, but there's some really good talent, and the commitment these guys have in today's environment is it's a 50-hour a week job at the D3 level, in season. Um, and you watch teams, you can actually watch players play for 4 years because these guys are playing because for the love of the game.
Yeah. More
They're not getting
continuity.
paid. There's no scholarships. Uh, and so I'm a huge D3 hoops junkie. I think I watch more D3 hoops on live streams than I do, college hoops on national television.
Nice.
Which either says I'm a total loser or have some insights about the game or something. I don't know.
I'm gonna go with the latter. I think you got some insights. Um, uh, Mitch, you also had some questions about the game of golf, which is a game that you have played for a lot of time. You've inspired me to sort of work on my game, and that's turned into something that I've shared with my son too. But yeah, let's get into that topic. What do you got on that?
Yeah, so Pete, so thinking back to when you were still playing, hypothetically, let's say Lynn enters you into a charity scramble. You're going to captain the team, and your three kids are going to be playing, so that'll round out the foursome.
Oh boy.
Whose tee shot are you probably using? Who is putting first to show the line, and who's your anchor under pressure?
Well, there's only really two golfers in the family, and that's me and Jack. Uh, So Lily and Mike are definitely going to be first or second off the tee, off of every shot, frankly,
Mm.
just because of the lack of, like, they're not golfers. Uh, Jack is capable of hitting it a mile off the tee. Um, and he's capable of hitting it straight a mile, but he's also capable of hitting it a mile right and a mile long.
Yeah.
Uh, so depending on the tee shot, obviously in a scramble, you're a lot, like swing for the fences. And so I think he'd bat third in the order, and that would determine what I'm going to hit off the tee. If we got three balls not in play, it's going to force me to do one thing. And, if Jack's hit a good one or one of the other two has hit a good one, then, I'll swing for the fences too. Now, just for the record, I was a mediocre golfer at best here, so we should not hold me out as any type of authority on the game of golf. I've played a lot of it, just not very well.
Well, and sometimes having the woman on your team, even if she puts it out 150 yards from the tee that she plays, you might be using that ball all day. So, Lily might not have to hit it that far as long as it's straight. So,
Well, a good friend of mine, Missy Hem, who's a really good, she's probably a 4 or 5 index. She and I would play in the club we were members at. Had the tournament was called the Dunkel, and it was a man and woman. It was usually husband and wife, um, but in this case, her husband doesn't play and Lynn doesn't play, so she and I would team up. And I mean, she's a way better golfer than I am, and would play from the ladies' tees. And so we'd have on a par 5 where she'd tee off, and I'd be hitting like a 7-iron in, for our second shot into the green. So that was pretty fun.
Awesome.
do you
And
have a most
we are Dunkel champions once.
Yeah.
Very prestigious award.
do you have a most memorable round or best score that still sticks with you?
I had neck surgery when did I have neck surgery? In 2019. And anyway, I had neck surgery. I was recovering from neck surgery. Yeah, in the spring of in like January 2019, I had neck surgery. So fast forward to like July, and I've rehabbed and everything, and I've gotten clearance to go out and play a few holes of golf. Like, just go play 4 or 5. Obviously, if anything hurts in the interim, don't stop, but just play 4 or 5 and stop. Don't push it. And it just so happens that the third hole at the Dedham Polo and Country Club is a par 3, and I knocked it in the jar for my one and only hole in one, which technically isn't a hole in one because you have to play 18 holes to count, and I only played through the 4th hole. But I was there with Jack and one of Jack's teammates from Wesleyan, and so that was pretty memorable. And I was playing with like some crappy ball that I found in the woods, a year prior that was at the bottom of my golf bag.
Wow.
So that was pretty memorable.
That's great.
Well, you already answered my next question. Any other memorable shots along the way, like any hole outs from the fairway or um
So I got diagnosed in late December of 23, and good friend of ours in our close friend group is a member at the Olympic Club out in San Francisco, and we had a trip planned to go out there and play in January, where you can actually play golf in San Francisco in January. And we had a beautiful day, and my friend Adam Rohde knew what was going on, and the other guys had an inkling that there was something bad brewing, but they didn't know exactly. And I played like crap the whole time. It was me and Rohde, we're playing matches, and I was like couldn't get off the tee. It was a train wreck. But on the 16th hole on a par 3, I left it short side on the right side. I had to hit up a little uphill into the green, and Rhodey was out of the hole, and I got up and down from a very difficult location. Sort of had a very soft hands chip up on the green, and then made like a 8-footer for par, which was the only thing I did all day, but it sealed the victory for us. So that was pretty memorable.
Nice.
And I was dealing with some psychological demons, uh, at the time relative to my diagnosis.
Sure.
So that one sticks out pretty well.
Yeah. I actually, when I took my mom to California from SFO, we drove by Olympic because I wanted to get a poker chip. They had just hosted the 2012 US Open.
Oh yeah.
And so, like, not thinking about it, we were in denim and they said, like, you can't come into the pro shop. And so we went back to the car and changed, and I got that poker chip.
Yeah. Yeah, the right attire is always a good idea. I had never been there before. Amazing. And they've got the Olympic Club has like facilities in downtown San Francisco with they probably have a dozen rooms and a nice bar and restaurant and game room and stuff. And so we all stayed at the Olympic Club in downtown San Francisco, which was also pretty special.
Are there any courses that would rank up there that you got a chance to play? I know you took a lot of golf trips with friends and whatnot.
Yeah, I mean the Ireland and Scotland courses are all incredible. I mean, just uh, I think the my favorite course that I've ever been to is Royal County Down, which is in Northern Ireland, right outside of Belfast, which is just indescribably amazing.
Hmm.
And obviously, the country club is right around the corner from us here in Needham. I've played that course many times. I got a couple of friends who are members there, so that's a pretty special track. Just it's a special track, and also, obviously the history is, pretty
Were you
amazing.
at that Ryder Cup in '99?
I went to one of the rounds. I wasn't at the victory
The
round,
Sunday, yeah.
the Sunday round where the putt was made on 16. It's pretty cool when you're on that hole and you're standing on the green and the caddies will always show you like, here's where the putt was and here's where the flag hole placement was. And you look at the putt and you're like, wow, like how'd that go in?
Mhm.
Big swooping downhill, left to right putt. Um, yeah. So the history is pretty cool.
I'm gonna change.
Courses are golf courses, you know what I mean? Like you put it in the fairway and try to put it on the green and, easier said than done, but, they're all even the hardest courses they're playable, but you get penalized for bad shots. It's really the,
Yeah.
the difference.
Yeah, a series of recovery shots, as they say.
Yeah.
Um, I'm gonna ask a few music questions. I know that's a huge passion of yours. Guitar was your preferred instrument, but were there any other instruments that you would have wanted to play or master? And
Not really. I was infatuated with the unlimited possibilities that exist on a guitar fretboard. Um, I was forced to, out of necessity, to develop some skills playing the harmonica when I couldn't play guitar anymore. And I did a pretty good job of developing my voice, which I would submit is also an instrument, from
Definitely.
being like atonal, terrible, turn this off to, you know, competence.
Yeah. Drive some
I
Johnny
could carry, I
Cash
could carry a tune.
sound. Yeah.
Yeah. And what I lacked in vocal, uh, God given talent, I had made up for with enthusiasm.
Yes.
and,
Confidence
and
and
always a couple
enthusiasm.
good wisecracks between tunes.
I got a fun one here. Is there a genre of music your bandmates would be surprised you listen to?
No.
No,
I
an open book.
I go very deep, in Grateful Dead, and I suppose Fish, now Goose. A lot of jam band stuff is what I like playing. Blues is fun and anything improvisational. But I think if you said, what kind of music does Pete listen to? They would not name, a wide range of musical styles. That Glenn's nodding his head like,
Yeah,
yeah, that's
definitely.
pretty good
That
self-awareness.
tracks with what I've heard. Yeah. Gotta have some guitar in there.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay. So you've spent your whole career financially in the financial markets advising folks um, helping them plan for the future and make smart decisions. Has living with ALS changed the way you think about the advice you give your clients or the things you emphasize most?
Uh, a little bit in the sense of because I suffered from this problem personally, which is you're always planning for the future with what you're doing with your assets and how you're saving money, and it's some amorphous time that's out there. And uh, the clients we dealt with were pretty well heeled people. I mean, it was 5, 10, 30, 40, $50 million type of uh, client accounts. Now, it's a big difference between 5 million and 35 million. But um, interestingly, I've found that the wealthier somebody is, there's a sort of a general stereotype, but it rings true. The more afraid they are of not having wealth. And the biggest change for me was really like, hey, you never know what life's going to deal you. So um, don't be too conservative. I don't mean from an investment mix standpoint. I just mean don't be afraid to. The point of having money is to enjoy it and do things that you want to do, and that may be consumer type stuff. It may be charitable giving. It's usually a combination of those things. Um, and just don't take the future for granted, which we do. I did myself until 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 this thing came. So that's the biggest change in my thinking, and it was subtle, but I would remind people it's okay to spend money. When you wealthy people generally are wealthy because they do a good job of spending less than they earn, and they have to have that type of asset base. Obviously, you're making a fair amount of money, or perhaps you've inherited money, or a little bit of both. But the giving encouraging people to spend some of their assets and saying, it's okay,
Yeah.
because the future is not guaranteed.
And you might sort of have answered this next question. If you could give your 40-year-old self one piece of advice about money and planning, knowing what you know now, what would it be? Would it be to enjoy life a little bit more along the way, or might it be something else?
I don't feel like we've made many mistakes. It's I was in an environment where I earned, by any measure, I earned a pretty good living, compared to the population, and we could have. Let's put it this way: we never had boats or a vacation house, or we lived well within our means, and I don't think that was a mistake. I think I think it instilled values in our kids that sort of how to live responsibly. Um, and we just never felt compelled to do that, and we did lots of nice things. So I don't look back with any like, boy, that was a big mistake, uh, or that was a reckless decision. And we did a lot of moving earlier in my career, and relocations are expensive in and of itself, regardless of what the relocation package is, and so that also sort of kept us in check. So I guess not really.
Right on. Right on. Um, Mitch, did you have other questions you wanted to go into, or did we hit the high notes there?
That is the end of the questions.
Pete, I was wondering, do you have any questions for Mitch or for me about yeah, anything that's on your mind?
Well, so similarly, my brother Nick is 4.5 years older than me, and you guys have what, a 5.5 year gap?
Yeah.
So that's like you're in ninth grade, Glenn, trying to do your high school thing. And you got a little brother trying to tag along. Was Glenn? Did you see? Was Mitch a pain in the ass, or were you happy to have him around, or was he doing his thing and you guys were? It was all good.
Mitch, I'll give you a chance to chime in. As I remember it, I remember in early days, like we would play together, and it would be fun. I remember Micro Machines. Remember those? Those were like super fun. We would play, but at some point, it was like, yeah, I want to play with my friends, and I've got my little brother following me around, and he's a nuisance. I'm sure I was a big jerk at multiple times. I have some memories of that. And it wasn't until college. I have a very specific memory of I went to college and then I came back and Mitch had discovered this perhaps the first multiplayer online team game. Shout out to Team Fortress Quake back in the day. And he introduced me to this thing, which was new, and I got into it. And it became maybe the first kind of common hobby we
Uh,
had. And I think that was an inflection point for our relationship. But Mitch, what's your recollection?
Well, on that point, I think that's like 1996. Dial-up modems are still very much prominent unless you're at college.
Yeah.
Um, and so, yeah, I think that was a way. I also, through this group, we called them clans. Glenn established some new relationships with some people that he's known for
Yeah.
that whole time.
Online friends, yeah.
Yeah.
We would travel, like, we'd travel to Seattle, they would come to us, so, yeah, it was a new era with the internet and all the
wow.
bright potential.
Seriously, yeah.
Yeah, and so I mean, I think the Xbox came out in like 2001 and Xbox Live and whatnot, but the PC gaming had a huge head start on just like even like voice chat was kind of a thing where you would run this separate application playing your game, and now that's pretty ubiquitous today. But um, yeah, I mean, like
Yeah,
we had
that's cutting edge.
Yeah.
yeah.
At the
For
time.
sure.
At the time it was.
Yeah.
Well, and I remember it was like in ninth grade that my parents were beta testers for Time Warner Cable Roadrunner is what they initially called it. And so going from dial up to this digital connection meant that my ping time got incredibly better. So a lower ping means the round trip time between you and the server. And so lag is something you don't want, and dial up was uh, a source of lag. So you would be the first one to die if you're shooting somebody, for instance. And
Yeah.
so, yeah, those were great times, great memories, and kind of inspired my career where I'm always been focused on networking and now security and whatnot. So, I think Glenn was instrumental in getting me into, technology and computers. I also had a paper route. I call it route because I got into networking and we call it routing, but paper
Oh,
route.
yeah.
And so, a
You
young
sound like a
entrepreneur.
Midwesterner when you say paper route.
Yeah, it just sort of the accent changed over the time.
It is
Um,
interesting to think about, though, that we haven't lived in the same place since '96, right?
mhm.
Spring of '96, and so our relationships for the past 30 years have been entirely sort of remote and virtual. And so I think the fact that we were early adopters of that technology really helped us to have a relationship that might otherwise have been difficult to maintain. Any other questions for Mitch or for me?
Well, Mitch, what do you think of Glenn's rising stardom as a podcast host? He's becoming quite famous.
Uh, he's definitely the right man for the job here. When you talk about the different tech and your first encounter with him holding some sort of keyboard on the train, like none of that surprises me.
Yeah.
Um, I do think he's had a few tips in the production. Like I suggested putting the explicit for some of the conversations, the little E on the Apple
I did see
Podcast.
that.
The show notes, some of the links that you were initially giving out, I think it's helpful for people just to see that. So he's taken feedback very well. And I've done a lot of podcast listening for a while, so I've seen some of the really official ones and how they do things. So it'd be nice to keep it ad free. I enjoy that. So
Yeah,
And this is not a commercial enterprise, so
exactly. Exactly.
unless it explodes, then
all
maybe
right.
all bets are off.
But no, I mean, when he first proposed me coming on the show, I mean, I was a little anxious. Like, I haven't met you. I guess the first second connection. So I think it's really kind of fun to for me to come home and do this homework assignment to make a compelling show and learn more about you, and maybe some of the folks that even know you well learn some new things about you today. So I hope that was entertaining.
It's funny, I've gotten a lot of that from people on various topics, like, I never knew that about you, and, like, people I'm good friends with, so that's interesting you say that. It's been a lot of fun. I think this is a good idea to change the mix up a little bit and have, have somebody on who I don't have a relationship with.
Yeah.
So any listeners out there that think they'd, be interested in, being a guest host, you can submit your applications, and we will, consider them with great diligence.
Awesome. Awesome. And I think that's a wrap. Mitch, this was great. Thank you so much for doing it. Pete, as always, thank you. If you have comments or questions for Pete and me, you can email us at 2224peter@gmail.com. If you'd like to get involved with or donate to ALS causes, check out ALS One at alsone.org. Thank you for listening.